Hi, it's William Farmer, and yes, we've got another session, Business, the Art of Winning. And today it's sponsored by our High Impact Presentations program, and that's the 24th and 25th of March. It's going to be a great process. And so my subject today will be around preparing for a presentation. So some of the things that you can do or models that you can create that will allow your presentation to have high impact. In fact, another name for the High Impact Presentations program that we use is High Impact Communication. And what does that really mean? High Impact Communication is where obviously we've listened to our client, or we're listening to the board of directors that we might be addressing our proposal, or we're listening to a sales team or a buyer, and we have to present in a very powerful way. So one of the things that we talk about in all our programs is, our communication model. So 7% of even the words that you're picking up on this podcast, and thank you if you're listening to us driving, or you're listening to us, gardening, or maybe doing something else on your computer and still listening to us. Appreciate that. Now, 7% of the words I'm using, you're picking up. 34% to 38%, depending on whose survey you're looking at, is actually my tone, my voice, my intonation. It's not actually what I'm saying, it's actually how I'm saying it that's grabbing your attention. And then 59% of our communication is nonverbal, which is a lot, right? And that means you can go around the world and order a pizza and a beer, even if you don't know the language. Thank goodness for Google translation, so that we can actually make that connection with people, even in their language, if we don't know the language. So my point is this, is that if you are communicating and it's in person or online, you have to have high impact, which means is using your body language congruently with what you're saying, how you're saying it, and the words you're choosing, and mainly the tone, intonation, a projection of your voice can make a big difference to a high impact communication, high impact presentation. So let's talk about models. That's one of the questions that a lot of people ask me. Hey, how do I actually organize a presentation? What's a really good way to do that? Anybody who is in, our space, training space, but online space, learning space, knows that the first thing you should do is hook your audience. And by hooking your audience, that means grabbing their attention. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. I always like thinking creatively about my opening, what my topic is, who's my audience, and what are they interested? What's the demographic, psychographic thinking patterns of the people that I'm about to address? Dale Carnegie always said, be honored to talk to any group, and always show respect towards that audience because they're giving you their time. He also said, I can listen for hours to someone who's really earned the right about their subject matter, but only minutes on someone who obviously hasn't earned the right, might even be talking from a third party point of view. There's a bit of a disconnect. And usually it's only palatable for a very short period of time. And I know that you want it to be, downloaded in the minds and hearts of the people that you're speaking to, because your time is precious. You don't want to be putting yourself out there. By the way, the number two fear number one used to be public speaking. It's now number two, speaking to people about real conversations, maybe around conflict, or even a little bit of anxiety, and meeting people is now superseded the fear that most people have of speaking in front of a group. And look, in this world too, obviously with lots of change that is happening globally, free speech and is one of those key elements that all of us would like to be able to do. And people are very passionate about having the opportunity to give their opinions. But all of us realize too that sometimes our opinion is not going to be met with positivity and big hugs. Sometimes our opinions are going to be like, hey, what do you think that, you're a moron, or whatever it is, and so Dale Carnegie rightly said, we don't want to criticize, condemn, or complain, but there's something that's worse than, just criticizing, condemning, and complaining to someone's face, is having that publicly, berated or, critical. And so online, where you've got, the opportunity to talk to the masses, the upside is you get to talk to the masses. The downside is you get to talk to the masses, right? And not everyone's going to see your point of view. So you have to learn, to be resilient, but also realize who is my audience and talk to that audience. And anybody who's on that fringe of that audience may see what you're saying as critical. And that's okay, because there's something that happens in critical. It creates thinking. So when people are critical, they start to have to think, what do I think? Why do I think it? And if they do get to evidence, that's even better. But a lot of the time they just stop there. What do I think? What do I think? And they spit it out. So congratulations on wanting to be a presenter. Congratulations on having something to share. So when you are sharing something, make sure it comes from integrity. Integrity is knowledge of the subject, your interpretation of that subject, maybe your experience around that subject. Obviously, if it's a debate type of presentation, pros and cons, advantages and disadvantages can make your presentation come alive. And also remember, don't worry about criticism. In fact, Dale Carnegie wrote, criticism is a disguised compliment. I like what Mark Twain said. If criticism had any real power, maybe the skunk would have been extinct many years ago. But as you know, it's not. And I've never seen such criticism in the world as now in regards to what people think, views on things, political landscape. It's huge. You can't actually go into your feed without having someone criticizing someone else. So you have to learn to realize that if you're doing something, you're gonna get criticized. Now let's talk about openings. How do I create a really powerful opening? So one of the ways is maybe grab people's attention. Did you know X, Y, Z? So question is a great opening. Did you know that we're able to increase our profitability by 10% in the next 6 months? That might be an educate, but it's also a question that allows people to jump in. I did a diploma in Gestalt therapy, and one of the things that I learned from the Gestalt process is that we are meaning-making machines. And what does that mean? It means that the human condition is to find meaning. And it's probably one of the things that's obviously made us advance. And so when we ask a question, the brain tends to want to jump in there with a solution, which means they join you in the conversation. So a question, a startling statement, something that might be really extreme that grabs people. Is the moon really made of cheese? Okay, obviously that's an attention getter, or a startling statement, or what I call a fantastic statement that might grab people's attention. There are other things that can really help, make your openings hook people into it. Okay, why is it that the world's economy is dropping by 20%? Today, like whatever it is, again, that questioning. Now, obviously, if you are going to set up a presentation, make sure that it's true. I had a great guy called Lee Seymour. Lee's, when I was teaching him the high impact presentation, he said, "This is a Women's Day," and he had a magazine. And this is Women's Weekly, and he held up the magazine. And here is a new idea, which is the name of a magazine that we have here in Australia. And here is a new idea, and he threw it over his shoulder. And I want to talk to you about a new idea to help our plant equipment be more efficient, which obviously has nothing to do with magazines, but it was an attention getter. So think about, how can I draw people's attentions? Quotes are great, that's another way. Personal stories are fantastic. So a personal story in regards to maybe presentation. I was 12 years old. And for the very first time in my yellow jersey, I was standing in front of the group and I was talking about noise pollution. Did you know that a stereo is 120 decibels, which is very close to hurting your eardrums? Now, why was that such a dramatic event? Because up until that point in time, I probably would have only shared 5 words a week, and here I was presenting. And unknown to me, I was actually good at it, and it became my life's journey. Who would have thought? So if you're one of those people that struggle with presentation skills. I was one of those people, yet it's been my job, my joy, and my vocation. Maybe that could happen for you. So I'm going to teach you about presentation skills. So a story, that's a real story that happened to me. And again, it just brings people in. Your job is to bring them in before moving into content. So how do I structure content? Well, there's lots of different models that you can use. In our Dale Carnegie course, we talk about incident, action, benefit, which is a personal experience. What was the lesson, and transfer that lesson to be relevant to the other person. Very simple formula. And why people embark with our organization is that we are very proficient in helping people in real time put that into place, and in real time see how people react and respond. Other methods, things like advantages and disadvantages. You can use that as a process. So the advantage of taking our world-class high-impact presentation program. So the advantages are that you're going to have a support system, that the class size is maximum of 10, that you're going to have 2 trainers. You're also going to have a camera crew that shows you very, very quickly where you're going right and what are some of the areas that you can win in. The disadvantages is it going to take you out of work? You're going to be outside your comfort zone. And by the time you come out of the program, you're not going to be the same type of communicator. So which way's heaviest with you? Obviously, the pros outweigh the losses. And because of that, then maybe we should consider an idea of embarking on the high impact presentation program. So this is a methodology. It's a simple one. It's a methodology that we use to embrace change. One of the organizations that we work with is a pharmaceutical organization. And so they do have a lot of complexity to some of their presentations. So one of the things that they ask us is, how do I communicate a complex message nice and simple? So what we look at is how to break it down using analogies. So imagine that you've got a Ferrari, right? A beautiful 2022 Ferrari, midnight black, because that's how you roll, right? And you're driving your Ferrari, and you put it in the first gear, and it's got that sound. I'm actually not sure about a Ferrari sound. And then you put it in first gear, and you leave it in first gear, and you drive it all day in first gear. What a waste of a high-performing vehicle. That's exactly the same when you don't train your people. You've got all this potential, second, third, fourth, overdrive, right? That you're not getting to. And not only that's just one Ferrari, you've got a fleet of Ferraris. Would you like to shift that? So I've just used an analogy around why people invest with Dale Carnegie, or why people would invest in professional development over not. And I always talk about you paying both ways anyway. You pay to invest professionally and get the best coaching and the best methodology. Okay, you're paying for that. Okay, but I tell you what, after 30 years in this space, it's a minimum investment compared to the huge cost of lost opportunities, deals that didn't go your way, teams that didn't follow some of the initiatives that would have actually made the company good to great. So it's again, I just use the pros and cons. So those are some of the models that can be really helpful when you're structuring presentations. So that's me today, short podcast. Thanks for listening today. Business, the art of winning. If you want to know more, join us in any office around the world. We've got 90 offices in 90 countries, hundreds and hundreds of offices around the world. In fact, I know that Dale Carnegie has one of the biggest footprints globally. So if you're listening somewhere in the world, check it out. Check our office out. You'll find that because of our quality and QA processes, that you can get the same program in New York as you will here in Australia, as you will in Auckland, New Zealand. Our standards are incredibly stringent and very helpful for you to make sure that your teams globally, because we've got a lot of teams that are now virtual, are getting the same thing. And we actually offer this program online as well. So we can talk to your learning development manager or a decision maker, and we can create this program, High Impact Presentations, online. Hey, thank you for listening to us today. Remember, every day is a gift. Use your gifts with others so that they may thrive, and guess what? You'll thrive too.